support them.
Correct. But there's a lot of Jews out there that are misinformed and are under the same amount of brainwashing as any
Are we live
white.
right now?
Yeah, I just hit the live button. We are live now.
Well, we already started with the heaviest topic, so here we are. Woo, keep going, Ruben.
Yeah, I made a TikTok on this, and I said I was like, and this is the only video I'm gonna make about this, and I was like, lies. I know I'm gonna have to. I know I'm just as a Jew, in Israel Palestine. I've literally been talking about this for 20 fucking years. It's been going on for 70 plus years, and no one like, even like, unless you went to college and you studied it, and like even then you might not know everything. And it is horrible, and we do not advocate war crimes or genocide or anything like that, obviously. And it is a horrible fucking situation. But as I was saying, a lot of Jews, unfortunately, are misinformed, and I used to be one of those Jews that Israel is our homeland, and that is our birthright. It is our right, and anyone who's trying to take that right away from us is bad. And obviously we know it's not as simple as that. So it's just a horrible situation overall. All the extremists needs to be removed, obviously, on both sides. And yeah, free Palestine.
Because as I understand it, I mean, historically, the Jewish people have been fucked with for a good while. So,
We're going
and
back
as
about 10,000 years so far.
right, yeah, like so many years ago. But then, I mean, as I kind of understand, is like, so after World War II, they were given the land in Israel. There's like given this piece of land, and they're like, "Hey, this is Israel, and this is for you guys. Sorry about the
UN had
genocide
a
thing."
vote. The
Yeah.
UN had a vote, and I believe through not so nice methods, it was ensured that like Palestine and Iraq and Afghanistan couldn't attend that vote. And that vote is what bequeathed the land to the Jewish people.
Yeah, so a bunch of people who did not own this, who did not have any legal claim, whatever claim to this piece of land, granted the Jewish people this piece of land and said, "Here you go. Sorry about killing you guys. That was it's not great." But then it seems like now it's kind of, and so rightfully so, that people living in that area would be upset that this entire country of people, has, it's like the whole goddamn like native fucking argument thing again. Like you have people here in the US that are like, "Oh, we back Israel, blah blah blah." And I'm like, "But I just
But why? But why are you backing Israel now when every other single fucking time you're like, kill the Jews, let me get a swastika tattooed on my neck, let me, like,
yeah,
it doesn't make any fucking sense.
no."
The only time you side with the Israels is when they're
Is
acting
when
like
they're
Nazis.
bombing people, and that's it's not a good look, for sure. Definitely not a good look. Not a good feeling. Like with all the discourse online, I really don't engage with it online because it's utterly pointless. Plus, I'm not Jewish myself. I really, yes.
Jew
Do
by
we all
marriage.
right? Do we all have opinions about world events? Absolutely. But I'm not really gonna say too much. I just wish everyone could just get the fuck along and stop having all these goddamn wars. Okay, stop fighting
Here's a
each other.
conversation I had with somebody though. So I heard someone I know say, "Oh, it's not really my place to comment on this. I'm not this demographic." And I said, "Okay, so let's go back to World War II. When this shit was happening to these people, and we know exactly who I'm talking about there, there's a whole bunch of people who didn't get involved. Why?" And the person was like, "Oh, well, because they weren't from that demographic. They were goyim." That was what they said. And I was like, bingo. People minding their own fucking business sometimes is important, right? But when other people's lives literally rely on us not minding our own business, it's important to speak up and maybe sometimes even sacrifice a little bit of your own safety to speak up for the people who actually need help out there, you know?
Mm.
Like, it takes a lot of courage in your life to show up for something, to put your face to a protest or a statement and actually say, I believe in this thing that is counter to the dominant narrative that I find harmful, right?
Mhm.
So, like,
And I feel like that's what a lot of people have been doing on social media. It's just that everyone now has a hot take on someone else's a bit. Like, it's like people will be like, I
mhm,
stand with Palestine or I stand with Israel. And they make this statement and they say, this is what I feel and this is what I declare. And that's what we use social media for. But then the problem is that like so many other people can respond and jump on you and well, if you're this and that, and you get like attacked.
internet discourse is especially toxic too. Like, I
Mm-hmm.
watched a good video recently by Feek the Signifier, saying, we the title is "We Gotta Stop Falling for Rage Bait."
Mm-hmm.
And he goes over like really bad internet discourse and how it's low key like poisoning modern society. And it was like a really fucking good video. In fact, I think it's so relevant. I'm gonna go look it up right now and put it in live show notes for anybody who's interested in checking shit out, because you know how we do that.
Mm-hmm.
So like, yeah, hang on 2 seconds. I'll look that up.
But yeah, when it comes to I guess for me, it's like I really try not to join in the social media discourse because I know it's not effective.
Hmm.
But like here on this podcast, I have no problem like saying I stand with Palestine, free Palestine.
Mhm.
Um, it just for me, it's just why the fuck would I post it on the internet? Someone's just gonna like shut the fuck up. It's not why I post to the internet. I post because I want to say what I want to
Mhm.
say.
Yeah, and it's difficult. Things are difficult. And it we simultaneously have to be aware and compassionate and vocal, but also know exactly when it's our place to sit down and shut up and let other people who need to do the talking, who are involved in their communities dialogues and how that affects them, right?
Mm.
Like, we can stand here till the cows come home and talk about the what's going on with Israel. But at the end of the day, if somebody who's like a Palestinian refugee speaks up about it, I'm not gonna fucking try and talk about that situation like I know more about them, right?
I saw
And I
this.
think that if I was in their shoes, I would want someone to say something too. I'd be pretty hurt and fucking furious actually if people were just like silently hand waving it and accepting it by saying nothing, you know?
That's kind of how I feel about like all these conflict. I mean, like Ukraine Russia is still going on. You know what I mean? Like it's not like that has stopped suddenly. And it's not like Russia stopped invading Ukraine, so we can all pay attention to Israel invading, Palestine. Like it's not like it happened like
Mm-hmm.
that. It's like these are still happening. Like both of these things are happening simultaneously. And then there's
Mm-hmm.
also this like I see a lot of articles circulating around now about like North Korea and they're partnering with people and China's partnering with so and so. And it all feels very like I want to say fear mongering, but also at the same time not fear mongering because they are having talks and discussions and these conflicts are actually going on. Like when the whole Russia Ukraine thing initially started, I I didn't have a good feeling about it. What like when they were saying like, "Oh, Russian, they're doing drills that close to the border." Come on now. And then like even leadership in Ukraine was like saying that too, like, "Oh, we're not worried about it. We don't think Russia's going to invade." And then they did, and I think that kind of like I think that set a sort of precedent because like I guess since like World War II, like we've been trying to avoid a third world war because now we all got nukes and it's really not a great situation. It's
Mm-hmm.
an even worse situation than it was before. And so we really would like to avoid a third world war overall, for the preservation of humanity and like the planet and shit. But kind of feels like the upper people, whoever's I don't know pulling the strings, whatever. It feels like they just really don't care. Like they want this world to burn. And it's so dumb because it's like, well, you got all this power and shit. So what? You're bored now? You just want to hit the reset button and kill everybody? Is that what we want to do? It doesn't make any sense to me.
Don't work that way.
Mm-mm. Mm.
Yeah,
But
I don't know.
I think the full moon, like the moon for a while was hanging out in Aries, and I've been seeing some like chatter in the astrology sort of community saying
There was
like,
an eclipse last night.
yes, yeah, there was an eclipse last night. I think
Full moon
We made
eclipse.
moon water.
The eclipse happened at around 4 p.m., so it wasn't nighttime
yeah.
stuff, but yeah, the energies.
But yes, we made I was doing some blessings of some keys and little items I had picked up from a flea market, just kind of cleansing them. And I was doing that last night, and I was downstairs, and I was, oh my god, excuse me. I had this like, I'm like surrounded by empty mason jars, and I was like, oh, it's a full moon eclipse. I should probably make some moon water. That'd be pretty cool, huh? And then like Rue wakes up in the morning. There's just this giant mason jar of just like moon water. I don't know. It looks different from a regular jar of water, and it makes me feel good. I did want
Do you drink
to talk.
it?
No, I do not
No,
drink moon
there's
water.
salt in it.
Oh,
No, I put salt in it.
apparently that's the thing I do. That I do some shit that makes other witches look at me and go, "Are you fucking out of your mind?" I remember drinking a whole jar of eclipse moon water and being like, "That feels great." And a friend of mine is like,
If I mean, like, that could be an interesting ritual. I think I would want to try, like, set out a glass, you know what I mean? Like, set out a glass of water, charge it under that, like, full moon energy, and then drink it. Like, that does sound like a really cool idea. But this particular jar of moon water that I made was just for, magical sort of purposes, not for consumption purposes. Could you imagine, though, like, you have, like, this very high-end... That could be, like, a really interesting like drink for like a witchy coffee shop kind of thing.
Can you make moon vodka?
Moon vodka, moonshine?
Can you just put like vodka outside and charge it? It's a clear liquid.
Moon beer. Moon milkshake. Oh, that sounds terrible.
No, vodka.
Moon vodka.
Clear liquids.
There you go.
Vodka.
Cristella's in the channel. Oh, you forgot to make moon water. Well, make some moon vodka. Next full moon, make some moon vodka instead.
Exactly. We'll remind each other in the
take
Discord.
A shot of moon vodka when you need to get fucked up for a ritual, for a little secret environment.
Get like taken
Next
over
thing you know,
by...
Jay's like product idea.
Right.
No, it's hard because then you'd have to sell liquor and have a license for that. That's a whole fucking thing.
In Philly, in particular, it is very expensive to get a liquor license. Like, we are talking hundreds of thousands of dollars to get a liquor license. Because it's attached to the property that you own, and it's like a whole fucking rigmarole. Unfortunately, for the first forever of Betwixt Cold Supply Shop being open, it's going to have to be bring your own moon vodka, because we can't sell it to you, sorry.
I mean, even letting people bring in their own moon vodka and consume it in your establishment would be considered reckless use and consumption.
I guess I'd have to look up the rules on that, because I guess I have to look up the different tiers of like liquor licenses.
Not that I'm saying
here.
reckless use and consumption's an actual like rule. I'm just trying to use proper language to describe it, right?
Yeah.
But I don't think that like it's part of why establishments that are non-alcoholic don't let you drink there. If they catch you, they kick you out, because if they don't, it's a legal risk for them. They can get sued by somebody else. If somebody's, so let's say you get drunk and you fall down some stairs and you hit a kid and break their arm, right? Just through no ill intention, but you fell downstairs and hit a kid, right? Who's going to pay for that kid's medical bills, right? Because it's not a liquor licensed establishment. If you did that of your own negative actions and of breaking the social contract of the place, you're likely to be sued for those actions, right? So it makes sense for establishments to make sure that people engage in whatever the social contact terms of that place are. So that's why if it's alcohol involved, you can't have minors there because the people at the fucking bar are not going to be checking IDs of everybody if somebody just walks up to the front to go get something, right?
Hmm.
This isn't just like way back in the day when your parents could take you to like a diner that also served alcohol. Although I think they have places like that too, where it's like mixed restaurant establishments where like a parent can get like a beer while their kids are there. I don't know. It's complicated. There's laws are
Dumb.
very specific and very localized, and you
They
have to
are.
pay
Yeah.
attention to them.
Yeah. Chris in the channel was saying, when I had a little aromatherapy mist thing, I would run it with moon water instead of tap or bottled. Because I wasn't actually using up my jars of moon water because I struggle with object permanence. Us
Hmm.
too. I also struggle with object permanence. A classic line in this house is, "Where the fuck did I put X?"
Mm.
Followed by, "I know I
Oh,
put it here, and now it is not here."
you ever learn some shit when you're doing magic and then it all just clicks and you have to be like, fuck, I know I gotta shut up about that and not say it.
I don't know about the shutting up about it part. That's usually what doesn't happen for me, because usually my reaction is like, I want to talk to someone about this so I can bounce ideas
Did
off
y'all
of
never
them.
hear the saying to know, to will, to dare, to keep silent?
I have heard of it, yes.
Hmm.
And I understand the importance of it. It's just like, I
There
can't
really is
help
some
but
shit you
want to
just
talk
don't want to
about.
tell some people. Right? Like,
Oh, yeah,
so
there's
like, here's a
plenty,
really
yeah.
good example about this. Because there's the thing that we do before the podcast happens where there's certain shit I can talk about with my friends that happens that it's not like some person came out to me is like, eh, but you can't talk about this with nobody, you know?
Right.
It's like I know I'm not supposed to talk about certain things that have happened to me. Really good example of this. I had a dream where a very specific being came to me and it was wonderful and I'm so glad it happened and grateful. But I was bragging about it without realizing I was bragging about it to a friend who is like kind of down on their dumps about magic and witchcraft and feeling like she couldn't connect, and I was trying to use it as like an example as to how real it is, right?
Mm.
When I did that, for some reason where we were at, when I was smoking weed, my ember didn't go out my pipe, and then my ember fell down onto my lap and burnt my lap and
Mm.
burned a hole in my favorite black dress
Ah.
that I still haven't had patched since because I couldn't shut the fuck up about something I knew was meant to be between me and that being. You know what I mean?
Mm. See, like,
I don't. Go ahead.
I haven't really had any interactions thus far of like something has clicked in my head and is like, hey, don't share this information. Like, I've never
When
gotten
you
like
know,
a
you know.
feeling. Yeah. Um but usually just when it comes to anything magic related, I always just want to talk about it.
But there's degrees which you can talk
Mm.
about, right? Like I described that story there about what happened to me because it's okay for me to say, hey, I fucked up here. Here's why sometimes secrecy is useful, right? It's a whole nother thing to be like, hey, here's the exact context of what the thing happened, humble brag. And then also here is the moral. Look at me. Not only did I do the humble brag of describing the thing that happened, but then I also showed that I know better because I gave the moral that I thought too, and instead of letting people come to their own conclusions. Haha, how smart am I? It's just asinine, and the beings that I work with really don't like that energy, and they're not about it. So you don't do that shit. You
Mm.
know what I mean? I wouldn't even say I work with the beings. The experiences I've had have told me, fucking, don't be doing that, right?
Mhm.
So I try to be respectful. I try to be um another important thing with like shit is not claiming shit that you don't actually have, like, I'm not over here saying like, oh, this being is my patron, or like this being is my that, or I'm this for that, right? You notice I'm very careful to try and be considerate of my language, to say something happened with a thing that came to me. I'm not going to tell you what it was, but um, it gave me some signs in no unclear terms that I need to respond to now, right? Like, I can talk about that because I need to be able to relate to other people and share shit, right?
Hmm.
But sometimes you don't talk about those experiences. You don't vocalize them. Like, there is a certain sacredness in keeping that experience between you and the thing. And like, in my earlier years of magic practice, I tried not to give into my, or sorry, I just gave into my incredulity, like the just sheer shock of it all. I don't even
Hmm.
know if incredulity is the right word, but it sounds right in my head. Um, I tried. I just kind of like gave into the shock of it all, and I'd like vocalize what was going through my head for everybody, and state like these deep divine inner truths for myself, right? But then I would state them outward like they were these objective truths for other people, which they're not inherently, right? They're my way of seeing something that oh, I don't want to get into or describe too much because it's complicated, right?
Hmm.
But you always try to be respectful. You always try to keep quiet, but you know you should keep quiet. And if you haven't hit that point where you know to shut up, um, don't worry about it too much. For all you know, you might stumble into it quicker than you think.
There's definitely a lot of things about my practice that I don't share.
Mm-hmm.
Just because it's mine, you know what I mean? Like,
Mm-hmm.
I was actually not to plug our own shit, but the Philly Pentacle, South Street Circles newsletter that we put out, the fall issue, I finally got a chance to like actually like really read through it this morning. And our friend Lexa, who I do want to have on the podcast, wrote this really amazing article. So I'll share the digital link to this as well. Be an ally and accomplice to kindness and unity. Sovereign
Allies are
Lady
overrated.
Lexa Lizzie.
Accomplices rule.
What's that?
Sorry, I cut you off. I said allies are overrated. Accomplices rule.
Mm-hmm. And really what this does is like, it's a kind of exactly what we were talking about here. Like what she's talking about is in your magical practice, in your path, like all these things you're going to go through, you're going to find groups that initially you vibe with, and then maybe like you grow apart. You're going to find things that are cool that or maybe things that you connect with that other people would strike you down on the internet and be like, you're not allowed to work with that because blah 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 blah, blah X reason, close
Mm-hmm.
practice, this, that, appropriation. But what she kind of talks about in the article is like all of that goes out the window with when it's you and the divine, you and the other, you and magic, like you and spirit. Because it's whatever helps you connect, whatever helps you do the work that you need to do. It doesn't matter what is on your altar. All that matters is that you are doing the magic, you are doing the work. And I think that's
I
kind of
cleaned my altar this week. Sorry, I was
yes.
waiting for a segue for that. I feel like a good witch. That's my contribution.
Cleaning your altar is really important. I come from a family where everything was very, very neat and orderly, almost to the point of it being like, no one lives here. You know, it doesn't look like anyone lives here because we have no shit and it's all super clean. So I have become like a very like neat and tidy person on my own, but I do have my own clutter too. Like I'm looking at my fucking desk right now. Like I have my own artist writer clutter kind of situation.
Mm-hmm.
They can also see my makeup desk every
Yeah,
time you
as
move
I
your
move my
hand.
hand, that makeup table that's
That's
back
my
there.
mess.
That's why I have a background.
Blur that shit.
But cleaning your space from time to time, like going through cycles, and I realize that about myself is like I go through cycles. I go through cycles
Mhm.
of I'm eating a lot of snacks. I go through cycles of I'm gonna work out, more. I'm gonna cut back on the snacks and I'm gonna do some working out.
Mhm.
And I go through cycles of I'm really cluttered, and then I go through cycles of I'm gonna fucking clean everything. And when I go through like
Mhm.
my sort of cleaning purging cycles, those are really helpful for me. And they really do freshen up the space. So if for some reason you are, I don't know, feeling down, feeling disconnected from your magical practice for whatever reason, clean your altar. Just do that. Even if it's just like literally just fucking dusting it, like, or just like moving your
It
little
helps.
tchotchkes around. It really
It really
helps.
does help. You don't have to do like a full clean and reset. My problem is that my altar is so complicated. I need a full clean and reset just to clean it. Like Jay says, it's not
Mm-hmm.
important what you have on your altar unless like what's on your altar is really important to you. Like I like to keep personal effects and gifts and trinkets from the ones that I love and the people who give me things. I find it impossible to give gifts away after being given one.
Mm-hmm.
I love them so much and I keep them close. You know, like my one of my partners made me Boba Frog. A little frog made out of clay drinking a boba, and it's so cute. And I love that he made it for me. And it's on my frog
On my frog.
on my altar.
That sounds
And
adorable.
little things like that, like Boba Frog. There's like a miniature version of the stuffed animal that I sleep with every night. That was a gift from PB. The miniature version wasn't a gift from her.
Mm-hmm.
The big one that I sleep with every night is, but the little one is sweet. And then there's a bunch of other stuff that's gifts on there, you know? So the love from those around us is truly a protection, and so is community. Like the funny thing is, community is one of those things that even when you think that you don't have it, sometimes you do and you don't realize it, you
Mm-hmm.
know?
That's
Like
very
I
true.
have had moments recently where I realized when I was fucked and I thought I had no way out of something, there was just people who I'd surrounded myself with who are good, who are kind, who loved me, who saw that I care about people, that I'm always trying to put my best foot forward and give other people the benefit of the doubt and try and help people see a good way to be, you know? Like I care a lot about the world and the people around me, you know? And people appreciate gratitude. People appreciate you caring. You know, I keep saying like every little thing that you do matters. It doesn't matter if you think it's a big deal. It could be a really big deal for somebody else just being there for something because you never know what they're going through or what they're carrying, you know? So I feel really appreciative that when I've struggled, there's people there to help me, like I've helped other people.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what society and humanity has always been. We're always people, right? We were never one person. Like in the West, we have this idea of, oh, yeah, rugged individualism. I'm going to go off into the woods and take care of myself by myself,
Right.
right? But it was never that. We
And
always
even
existed as groups.
then,
Maybe a
yeah.
family might split off, you know,
Mm-hmm. Like I look at
but
that
like,
those like living in the wilderness shows, those reality shows that exist, but all of those people they still have machinery. Okay, so you didn't build that snowmobile that you have. You purchased it or traded it. You know what I mean? Like you still have
mhm,
to interact with community. You still have to engage in commerce, you know what I mean, in some regard, some sort of commerce or trade. So it's like we're at a point, I think, especially like at this point in the world, is like you really can't escape other people. Like you can temporarily, but forever you still have to engage. Like you still have to engage with people in some regard.
mhm.
So Christello has a little story in the chat here. Let me see. Oh, what Chris was saying is she was empathizing with when you have entities that are like, do not speak of this or else kind of thing. So Chris was saying, my family hunts. Cousin shot a deer yesterday with her dad, brought it out to the farm to process it. Cousin is known for touching dead things' eyeballs, has since she was a toddler. Touched the deer's eyes and then jinxed herself. That's interesting. Huh. Mom was watching and wanted to be included. Okay, so it was some sort of like ancestry, sort of like jinx kind of thing. That's kind of interesting. Never heard of that before.
I
But
don't.
that
I
is a
think that
very.
might be a separate. I think that might be separate from the first thing.
I think so.
Oh, never mind.
Oh yeah. So that is quite interesting. But yeah, I guess that kind of like ties into what you were saying. Well, sort of before recording, but how some families kind of have sort of, I guess, magical affinities for certain types of things.
Pardon? Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. I was
Mm-hmm.
referring to this with my one of my friends. I don't want to talk about her story, but I like to use destiny metaphor because it lets you talk about some really big concepts
Mm-hmm.
without using the real world equivalents, which makes the beings tied to those things not always happy when you're talking about them.
Yeah, I feel
um
that. Yeah.
so like in destiny there's like two things. There's the sky and the deep, right? The
Mm.
sky is the traveler, the deep is the darkness and the worm gods and like the bladed path and like a whole bunch of shit like that. If you've played destiny, you know,
Mm.
right? Darkness comes from the deep, and darkness is one of the paracausal powers that you get. And light comes from the pact of the sky, which is being born from the traveler or having the gift of the traveler's light, as you know, right?
Right.
So one of my
Mm.
friends, every association with her is always like showing up as like Pact of the Deep, like everything's
Mm.
Eldritch themed. She worked with those kind of entities. Her family taught her to work this shit when she was younger,
Wow.
like her grandmother did.
Wow.
Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of people who low key their grandparents do try to teach them this shit, but they have to be really subtle about it because of how society works.
Right. Yeah.
I don't claim that. Nobody ever tried to teach me nothing, which is why I'm so fucking frustrated. Because if you got a gift, obviously other people in your family know about it. And like, because you're not unique to a family line, you're not the only person in the entire history of the family who's probably been able to do that thing. I'm sure in certain there's other people, right?
Mm.
So it's one thing to have somebody teach you, it's another thing to have it happen and be like, what the fuck? When was somebody gonna tell me? Why is this my problem now?
I really wonder how differently I would like. I really sometimes I wonder how different I'd be now if my family had a history of practicing some kind of magic and if that was like taught to me. Because we weren't particularly
I don't know.
religious or magical. Like everything was just kind of like, oh, go to work. It was
Part of the
very like,
trauma part of the big traumas of living in the Western world is not really getting to know who your family and who your people are and what you
mm-hmm,
come from and what your individualized traditions are, because everybody has a tradition that's not just specific to their country but specific to the region of the people that they come from within that country. Because what we think of a country is basically a state of all these different people from all these other individual in like regions, right? And often they're like related, like they'll have a lot of shared language or abilities to communicate or trades and customs or like straight up just speak each other's languages, right? um Happens all over the world. But then a country gets formed because somebody wants to put the power together and bring all these people together. You usually unite all these individualized clans and families under a country, you know
mm-hmm,
what I mean? And everybody has a right, I feel, as a human being, to know their people, where they come from, be able to engage in their practices. And it's a very unique and deep trauma in the modern Western world, where a lot of us don't get to connect to that. A lot of us don't get to even know what our people are, where we come from specifically, or what our specific traditions are. And a lot of people have to end up adopting other people's beliefs, sometimes at the, like, doing
Hmm.
under the shitty practice of appropriation, right? um and sometimes people are invited into other people's beliefs, you know what I mean? Like, some faiths and systems even actively proselytize, you know? So it's complicated, but I think that's a great trauma that we sit with, is that we don't have connection to a lot of that shit, um unless you're very lucky and fortunate, you know. And it would be very wonderful to be able to not just, like, know where you come from, but also have a unbroken connection to it.
Hmm.
You know
And
what I mean?
yeah, and then like we do a lot of good work with reconstruction, you know what I mean? Like reconstruction is hard work. It's constant work too. Because
Mhm.
once new information surfaces or a new interpretation of something, comes about, we should take pause and consider that, like that's how this is all supposed to work. Some groups agree with that, some groups don't. Some groups are kind of like, we've accumulated all the knowledge about Celtic witchcraft and magical practices, and that's it. But no, the reality is that we're always going to keep learning, even about things in the past. But another thing too that I've kind of gotten to the point, like, and I've said this so many times, like I don't really have any clue about my ancestry connection, whatever. So what I've kind of gotten to the point of is like I've accepted that. I've accepted that it's very fragmented. I know it's from some sort of Celtic sort of region, Ireland, Scotland, UK, somewhere in that area, and then there is also some Germanic influence there too. And so I traced, according to my ancestry 23andMe, I can trace my ancestry to actually like Pennsylvania Dutch, like Germanic settlers in the Pennsylvania area. That tracks for me. So there is actually a group out here that is like specifically geared toward like Pennsylvania Dutch heathenry, which I find interesting. So I do kind of have like an in on that group, and that's something I kind of want to explore a little bit more for myself, just from like more of like a cultural sort of ancestral perspective, to see if I get any kind of different connection from it, or whatever it may be.
Mhm.
But ultimately what I've been doing is I've been constructing my own practice. I'm like, well, I'm a witch in the city in the modern world, and I like, this is my reality. This is my world right now. And so, things like my computer and my phone, they are part of my witchcraft. My phone is my grimoire sometimes if I just need to
Mhm.
reference something. And so I think sometimes we put a little too much focus on the ways and days of old, and and everything's supposed to be, sticks and rocks and this and that, and it can be sticks, roots, stones, and bones, I think, as they say in New World Witchery podcast. That's kind of their tagline. But it's also digital fucking shit and sound waves and electromagnetic nonsense. Like, it's the intersection of magic and science now is what we're like starting to experience. And I was really, so like in my Wiccan days, my first sorts of experiences with magic, when you're doing magic, everything is supposed to be very like poetic, and you're saying the spells, and that often they'll rhyme to help you remember. But like, you're supposed to be saying the spells and having all your sorts of equipment. But last night when I was cleansing the objects that I bought, I realized like I was going about it less like a ritual and more like I was in a lab. And that's kind of like how I view my magical working space down in the basement. It's my lab, it's my workshop. It is 100% a sacred spiritual
Mhm.
space, but it is also like the lab. And when I was doing some smoke cleansing with like on the keys. Usually, like before, I would just kind of like pass it over the smoke and kind of like waft the smoke on it and cleanse it. But this time, I took like the wood stick that I was burning and I held up one of the railroad spikes and like just allowing that thick smoke to like to be right up on the iron and like to see it wrap around it. And it was a completely different experience for me because I was like, it like when you're doing that kind of thing, it really puts you in a different mindset when you're doing it more ritualistically or more like intensely. So like if I was just waving it over there, I was like, okay, we're smoke cleansing it, we're cleansing it, but it felt very like blase sort of thing. But when I actually focused that intent and had that smoke like swirling around it, it's like you can really see what it's doing. You can see the sort of like miasma that's falling off of it. Like you can see that. And it really comes back, and I felt like a kid playing wizards, playing magic, but all at the same time I'm like, I'm an adult, I am an occultist, and I know it is real. And so to have
Mm-hmm.
like that fantasy and that reality like collide into one truth, into one moment, was particularly impactful for me.
Yeah, that's
Mhm.
awesome.
Mhm. It was definitely like a moment where I was like, yeah, magic is definitely here. It's in my life, and I think it would be kind of silly at this point for me to be like, I'm an occultist who doesn't believe in magic, because I'm always trying to like prove it to myself, and I'm like,
Oh
there's no more
God.
proving it. Like there's no more proving it. Like it is
That's the thing. You
absolutely.
also get to the point where sometimes it'll scare you, right? If you haven't been practicing long enough, if you haven't gotten scared at your craft or what's going on, you haven't been practicing long enough.
Mm,
No offense, I don't mean that as like condescension. And honestly, fuck, for all I know, maybe you have really good practices and foundations because you're actually doing it um through a tradition and lineage, not open source magic like us stupid fuckers.
yeah.
So your mileage will vary, and I can only speak to my experience, obviously. Take everything I say with a pinch of salt. But I feel like a lot of my practitioners eventually hit that point where they get caught with their pants down.
Mm.
You know what I mean? Like
I was in a
you it feels
situation
like
like
you're
that.
playing at it.
Mm.
Yeah?
Yeah, I was in a situation like that. It's when we went to this paranormal investigation weekend up in Easton, and we were in
Oh
this
yeah.
haunted theater. We did a couple other investigations. One was like a coffee shop, or it was a funeral parlor. It used to be a funeral parlor that was now a coffee shop. Um, and like
Hmm.
I was also like really skeptical on paranormal science in general at the time too. So I was very like, about the whole experience. The places we went were cool. It was nice to see the old buildings and everything like that. But in the theater in particular, it was like this ballroom area. Um, and Rue got attacked by spirits that were in there. I could not sense spirits. I was very like, I think I just had so much shielding and walls up. I'm like, I can't see shit. Like I just but Rue got attacked, and I don't know if you want to
It
kind
is
of like,
still one of my biggest failings and my biggest regrets. Sure, let's share that.
but also mine too, because I was the senior magic user and I really did not know what to do.
It was funny. I was obviously skeptical like the whole night like leading up to. I really wasn't like experiencing anything out of the norm. Until we got to the theater, I was like, well, I know the theater's going to be haunted as fuck cuz every theater's haunted as fuck. They literally got a ghost light in the back. That's the whole
Right. Kind of their thing.
fucking haunted. I was like, okay, so this will be fine. I had 2 pieces of black tourmaline hanging around my neck. I figured I was like, I'm fine, I'm good, I'm cool. Like, what's up? Like, and everything was fine until we got to the like second floor, and there was like a ballroom. And immediately as soon as I crossed the threshold, I was like, oh, like it was like that, like you get your breath like you feel the breath get knocked out of you, and like the hair stands up and the
Like,
goosebumps
did
and
it
the
feel like the room was full of people?
yes.
Mm.
Like, it just like, I could tell it was hectic, it was busy, like, there was waiters, and there was people in, like, really nice clothes, and there was just so much. There was so much going on, and I was like, "What this is I gotta be, like, high or something. This has gotta be, like, some, like, next level hallucination that I'm having right now." Like, I'm in, like, the Overlook, like, it's just The Shining, like, we're fine. Like, this isn't actually happening. And, like, I noticed once we went to the kitchen,
Mhm.
once we opened the door to the kitchen, I was like, I don't need to go back there. I don't need to disturb the chef. That's fine. He could stay back there." And once we turned around to go back, that was like when it seemed like everyone noticed that I could see them. And that was like, and I was like, "Oh, dear Lord," and there was no amount of grounding, there was no amount of "get the fuck away," there was no amount of casting a circle on myself, there was no amount of anything that I was like, "Oh
Overwhelmed.
boy."
Yeah.
Overwhelmed, overwhelmed, and that goddamn lady I can't even
Lady
remember, it's
D
not
was her
lady, it
name.
was Lady Day,
Mhm.
okay.
Mhm.
Uh, Goddamn Lady D, she had to, like, pull me out of there and, like, fucking strip me down and, like, help me get out of that, and,
Not strip you down, but what
uh
it was is she was
yeah,
stripping the I remember you had your hands out, and she was, like, taking the, like, energy off of you kind of
yeah.
motion. Um, I was completely taken aback by it. I was so happy that Lady D was there. So Lady D, if you ever listen to this podcast for some reason, you're awesome, and thank you so much for
Hey.
saving Rue. Um, Spirit work is something that I still don't do a lot of, and I was not very familiar with. I
I've
really
gotten a lot
had
better since then.
yes, but yeah, I really did not know what to do, and that was like a moment where I was like, I'm kind of freaked. Like I was scared because I was like, oh shit, what did I get my wife into that I don't know how to fix? You know. But I was very happy that Lady D was there to kind of you know, help us out with that. And I remembered
That's good.
that moment ever since. Like I watched what she did, and it's like burned into my memory forever. So yeah, if there will be times in your practice that you will be legitimately scared. But fear is a good thing because you will remember how to not get into that situation again. Like, don't touch cursed objects that are obviously cursed.
Or follow protocol. If you know protocol, follow protocol. Look, I'll say this. Not that I know protocol, blah blah blah. I fucking make a million disclaimers and waste most of my time to giving disclaimers. But if you know something you should be doing and you don't do it, the spirits look very differently on that than somebody who doesn't know what they should be doing and doesn't do it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I feel that.
And
Yeah,
I'll leave it at that. If you know better and you don't do better, oh, they pay attention.
it is definitely a sort of thing that, like, I don't know. I guess Sophia, I guess I could ask you this: are there times where,
Mm.
like I struggle from this, from like I feel like I constantly have to be productive. So like if I have like a day off, my brain is very at war with itself. It's like play a video game all day and just chill and relax, enjoy your day off. And then the other part of my brain is like you should be putting up shop products and do all these million things. And you know,
Mhm.
do you struggle with that? Like from a magic, and also like the other thing for me is like do your grade school studies, fucking meditate, do this, do that. Like, do you
Course
struggle
I
with that?
do. Of course I do. I fucking made mistakes last night with protocol that I knew to do and didn't do.
Mm,
Ugh, and I paid for it, right? So uh, it's hard, and it's hard keeping everything in your mind at once when you're struggling to survive, right? The 9 to 5 grind with like not enough to eat is a very specific kind of psychic. It's almost like a psychic attack, right?
mm,
Because it drains you so much and it takes away your ability to respond healthily to stuff.
mm-hmm. So it's like, you know, there is a level of like physical care that you have to like take care of yourself. Like try and
Yep.
eat all right, try and eat decently, try and get some decent sleep. But it's like sometimes I hold myself to really impossible standards. Like I'll be like, "Oh, you have to become a health nut." It's like I'm finally starting to like accept those things about myself, and I think that's been what's helping me magically. It's like I know the type of person I am now. I'm not a health nut. I'm not
So
gonna be like a workout fucking crazy person and be like Mr.
here's
Fitness.
I have a take on that, and I do kind of want to keep it close to an hour today because I'm very tired and I need to rest before
Mm,
my other classes start. But the thing that I learned recently is it doesn't need to be perfect to do it, and
mm-hmm.
sometimes that will absolutely fuck you over, right? It was like we were talking about activism in regards to printing stickers in regards to Gaza to spread information. And the idea was to have a little slogan and then have a link, a QR link to a video about what's going on over there that the mainstream media is not covering,
Mm,
to expose people to it, right? Um, and then someone brought up that, oh, yeah, you should pay an artist from that area to do it. And it's like, look, in a perfect world, if I have all these resources and all this social capital, you bet, right?
mm-hmm.
When I'm working a warehouse job, pulling fucking orders for a living, trying to like keep my car payments going while film is down, because I sure as fucking in a scab. I have morals and common sense. It's hard, right?
It
Like,
is.
how am I gonna go pay that person? And if the idea of needing to do it so perfect that I pay that artist to draw up the logo for it, I if it gets to the point where I don't do the thing at all, my help is all purely fictional. It's all
Yeah.
in my head. I've thought about doing something. I've talked about doing something, and I've had somebody point out why I shouldn't really do anything because I'm not doing it exactly right. And if that stops you from doing something that you're helping and causing a positive effect in the world or in your life, that's the trap.
Yeah.
It's like thinking that you need to eat only healthy food. So you
Mm-hmm.
make a diet that you get sick of, and then you don't end up eating anything healthy because you fucking hate that type of food, right?
Right.
Instead of trying to make sure you eat more vegetables and eat less unhealthy foods for your body type, right?
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't have to be an all or nothing thing, and thinking all the time that it has to be is very often what gives us hurdles in the path to making it happen. You know what I mean?
Exactly. Like you kind of just have to settle for like some days you just need calories. Whatever that
Yeah.
is, they're just calories. You just need fuel to put
And
in your
like,
body to keep going.
yeah, and like if I made those stickers to talk about that thing, if I did do it, even if I didn't pay a artist from Gaza to do it, I would still be taking all proceeds, 100%,
And sending it.
and putting that towards a charity that I've vetted and made sure is going to the right hands, right? Like, I'd be doing the work at least with the positive things that come back from that, because if you make a sticker like that and you put it on Redbubble and people buy hundreds of them to sticker bomb areas with messages, then you're going to make money from it, and you have a responsibility to not be profiting off of social movements, right? Like, it's a
Mm-hmm.
really gross thing that people do. Like, there's a thing that happened out here with Truth and Reconciliation, and like in Canada, people will often wear orange shirts to signify support for Indigenous communities with like the stolen youth and the residential school issue, and all the buried children, which we've talked about. But the problem is, a lot of people will come in and just silk screen these shirts out of nowhere
Mm.
because they know the slogan, they know the imagery, and then they apply it, right?
They're just
And
trying to
there's a
make a
lot of
quick
people,
buck.
I believe, here's the thing. I can't say that there was this X amount of people, right? It's not like I went and interrogated
Right.
people. I don't have knowledge. But it seemed like there were a lot of places that were super willing to just jump up and print these things out and not be mindful of the fact that they're literally profiting off of a social movement that's talking about justice for dead children,
It
right?
reminds me of
Like,
that ice water challenge for ALS. You remember when that was going around the internet?
yeah, kinda. I mean,
Like,
I know the ice bucket challenge, but like, I don't know what the fuck it actually did.
exactly. It's like, what did it actually do? Because what it was, I think, like, you were supposed to do it, and then you're supposed to make a donation. Like, that was kind of like the whole point. Your button. No one can hear you, button.
Button. Who's got
I
the
can
button?
hear you, but no one else can hear you.
I did do that ALS ice bucket challenge, and you were supposed to make a donation. I did make a donation. I made a $20 donation. Okay.
Did you do the ice
And
Good
bucket
job.
thing?
yes, I did, and I posted
Oh,
it on Facebook and everything, and everybody saw my
wow.
titties, and it was wonderful.
So,
It's quite refreshing. It
that's
was.
the
We
name of
did
this
it on the front
episode.
lawn of
Everybody
Tudor.
saw my titties, and it was wonderful.
My mom did it too.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, that's great. But see, you actually did the thing. You actually donated the money, which was good. But other people are just like, watch me dump a bucket of water on myself. Awareness.
Or like people who
None
showed
of that
up at the
works.
protest in 2020 to take their selfie and then go home, but weren't there when like those protests needed to stay overnight to keep a momentum up to actually make a fucking damn difference. The
Mm-hmm.
one day show doesn't do a heck of a lot, but if you're like actually doing what like Occupy Wall Street did, you need boots on the ground and people willing to sacrifice their safety and comfort for the cause, right?
Mm.
And there was a bunch of people who were just there to dress the part, show up, take a photo, put it on their Instagram or their Facebook, and then fuck off.
Yep. I'm supportive.
So many people did that.
Mm-hmm. Virtue signaling.
Sad.
That's okay. We
I mean,
know.
signaling is usually an alt-right term to be like, oh, this person's just virtue signaling when you're just talking about basic morality and why it's shitty to be racist, but they don't want to confront their behaviors and attitudes.
I think what it is like people who are racist know that being racist is fucked up. Like they know it.
Mm-hmm.
But
They just don't care.
they just can't let go of it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, like they just can't let go of it. Like that's their worldview, and it is so intrinsically like ingrained in their brains, and that's the way the world works to them that
Mm-hmm.
they get defensive of it. It's like, oh, you're trying to take this away from me. Like I need my racism in order to survive in this
God.
world. That's
And
sort
with
of
that,
how I view it.
folks.
Yeah. So that's why the battle is
Oh,
tough,
God.
and that is why we need to stay visible and, keep doing what we're doing, and literally just existing and putting those calories in your body so you survive another fucking day is also a form of protest, because there's many people out there
If
who don't like
you're
people like us.
if you're marginalized identity and you struggle to survive, sometimes your entire battle is your existence and continuing for your people who have historically had people try to stop them from continuing.
Very, very true. Chris was saying in the chat, isn't that the definition of performative activism? Yep. Yep, you are supposed to do so. If you show up and take a selfie at the thing, if you can't like hang out there all day or whatever it is, try and make a donation to the thing or do something else, not just like, hey, I showed up and I took a selfie and then I left.
Or like
A
a really
crisp
big
high
thing
five
is
really does nothing.
a really big thing is learning how much you can help for the amount of social privilege that you have, right?
Yeah.
Homeless people can't advocate for themselves to end homelessness the same way that rich people who have institutional power can,
Mm-hmm.
right? Pure and fucking simple, right? If really, really rich men in the world and really, really rich women wanted to put their minds together, we'd solve homelessness in a jiffy, and there'd be a lot of money going into construction. But it doesn't happen because it's deliberate and
Mm-hmm.
the system wants it that way, right? Like,
It's a terrible
it's a
thing.
lot.
Yeah, exactly. It's a terrible thing that we get caught in, but I guess
It's
really
one
what
thing
it
to
is
give your
like,
voice to something. Sorry, go
mm-hmm.
ahead.
I was saying like form those communities, form those strong communities, whether how small they are, but like you need community to sort of like, I don't want to say dodge, but to survive the shitty systems that are in place. You can't do it on your own. You're gonna need guidance. You're gonna want someone to bounce an idea
Yep.
off of, or whatever the case
We
is.
talked about this earlier with
Mhm.
everybody needs community and comes from a community, whether they know it, the community or not.
Mhm. And if you're a listener of this podcast, you're part of our community, and really we are happy to have
Oh,
everyone, who is a part of it now. Like, we're happy to have all of you here, because this has really only ever been my dream, is to just create this, sort of community of like-minded people. Like, we're all just out here, we're doing our own thing, and we're all just trying to, envision a better world, a nicer, kinder world. But
Oh,
mhm.
you big softy.
I am a big softie. See, people look at me and they think I'm like some racist fucking looking motherfucker because of my very fair skin and ginger face. But I assure you, I
And
am
over
not.
here, you're like, I care about Indigenous people and actually want to do things to help them out.
Mhm. Exactly.
and,
But
and
that's
other
why I do this
people.
podcast, to spread that message. But I know, Sophia, that you are tired. We are at an hour, so
Yeah.
we've done it. We've hit the goal. Any concluding thoughts from our crew here today? Hopefully Scott will be able to join us next week.
Again, if there's one thing I've learned, it's that everything matters. No action, however small it may seem, is unnoticed. There's things that are imperceptible to us in the world that we can't notice, but they notice what we do. And when you hold the door for somebody, when you don't cut in front of someone, when you give the money to the homeless person when you can afford to do so, no questions asked, it's seen and it's remembered, and everything eventually catches up with you. Your actions will speak for you. You're allowed to make mistakes. You're a human. Nobody expects anyone to be perfect. If we did, we'd all be dead for the stupidest, slightest mistakes that we make that we didn't know about.
Mm-hmm.
It usually comes down to intent, grace, willingness to show respect and attentiveness, and just care, right? If you come with care, if you come with respect, if you come with dignity and humility, people will see that and they'll respect that and they will want good for you as well, you know? Just like negativity is a spiral that pulls people down, positivity is a spiral that builds people up, you know? So don't forget, it may seem little to the outside world, but the act of goodness that you can do, no however small it is, it fucking matters. And I see you people out there holding doors and giving to people who need it and fighting the good fight. And we're all in this together, you know. Don't let anybody try and tell you otherwise and separate you from your innate humanity. You know, you have dignity, you have joy, you have flaws, and you deserve to be loved and forgiven and grow and have a healthy and conductive life where you're a part of a community that values you and wants to see you flourish. I think we all deserve that.
Very well said.
Amen.
I
Smash the
tried.
patriarchy. Be gay, do crimes. And a very, as of this live date, a very, very, very blessed Samhain and happy Halloween to everyone.
Yeah.
By the time we talk to you next.
Eh,
So,
One
woo!
last quote. Sometimes the seasonal shift is not marked by a calendar date, but a simple, almost imperceptible shift in the weather and the sudden onset of a different time
Mm,
or energy.
I feel that.
With that, I'll let you go.
Mm-hmm. Chris, we are very happy that you were here hanging out in the chat with us. We are very glad that we exist to be your community since you live in such a rural space and it's hard to connect. But we are very glad that
Yay.
we can be your community, and we are very happy that you tune in and hang out with us each week. We really appreciate the company. And Kick algorithm likes the view, I guess. I don't know. But on that note, we are going to sign out for this week, and we will see the rest of you next week. And I will catch up on episode uploads. I promise.
Yeah. All right. Take care, everyone.
Take
Be
care,
well
everyone.
and stay safe.
Bye. And stream.
I did not mean to hang up. I meant to mute. But I'm tired.
I was like, wow, you're out. Outie scouty.
No. Thanks, y'all. It was a good episode.
Yeah, it was a good one. We will talk to you later. Get some rest.
You can always tell when I've done drugs on an episode because of how I talk about things.
Yes, you are. Yes, definitely a vibe. But we will talk to you later.
It makes the podcast more lively, right?
Very true. Very true.
All right. Love y'all.
Love y'all.
Bye.
Bye.